So I have some things I want to talk about, and this is obviously very different from other videos that I share with you guys on my channel, and I hope that maybe somebody has space for listening to this, and that maybe it'll strike a chord or bring some understanding or some self-acceptance to somebody else out there, because that's where this is coming from. I've had a rough half a year. I've spent 3 or 4 months now alone on Saturday nights, and for the first time in my life, that was actually a bit of a challenge. It's weird because I'm one of those people who doesn't have a hard time with being alone. I used to prefer my time alone over time with just about anybody else for the majority of my life. So this is really new to me. And it's brought a lot of shadow out. A lot of my shadows have been elicited from the depths of my subconscious. And I don't know why, but yesterday I was writing some notes about how I feel in my journal, and I was like, maybe I should share this. Maybe someone out there needs to remember something that I've remembered. And I also think that it's important to once in a while just kind of talk to you guys and remind others that maybe forget that I'm a person and that I'm a real human being and I'm not this robot that just has all these fun things to talk about, and that I go through really difficult things myself, and I still, YouTube is my #1 outlet. It's how I keep myself together. It's how I learn and then I teach, and then I learn and then I teach, and then I go back and relearn, and I bring everything. I'm constantly thinking about ways to bring you guys more depth to your life and more excitement about the human experience. So that's what I want to talk about today. You know what I have on my mind right now, aside from what I'm about to talk to you about? Just a little tangent. I keep thinking about, I watched the Dave Chappelle special. I know that everybody was really upset about it. I personally, as a Jew, as somebody who is very sympathetic to the causes of marginalized people, I didn't think that, I thought that a lot of what he said was coming from the heart. I thought that it was definitely comedy. It wasn't his funniest work, but what really stuck with me was the last story that he told about his friend, Daphne, and what happened with Daphne. And I keep going back to the part of the story where he said, and I feel like crying as I talk about this. I know it's such a tangent, but the part of the story where he said, Daphne was at his show, she was in the audience, and they were having this back and forth dialogue, which was not planned for or anything. And at one point, Dave says to Daphne, I love you to death, but I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't understand you. And Daphne says to him, I don't need you to understand me. I just want you to realize that I'm having a human experience. And Daphne went on to take her own life. So that was just so profound to me that I have chills speaking about it right now, because whether we can put ourselves and empathize, put ourselves in other people's shoes and empathize with them or not, can we just continuously remember that each one of us is having a certain type of human experience, and that there are struggles that come with that, and your struggles might not appear to be big to another person, but they're important and profound nonetheless. And of course, it's always important to realize how good we have it and how other people in the world might be having a harder time, but that doesn't take away from what you're going through. I don't know where the tears came from. Let's get back to the topic at hand. We're all having a human experience. So my ex and I, the ex that you guys, a lot of you know, haven't spoken since April. We just decided that being friends wasn't working out anymore, and that I wasn't in a relationship and in another relationship, and being friends, it's hard. It's hard when there's history there, you guys know. But I do have to say a few things about that, because I know he has a new girlfriend now, and I found out about that because some of you keep commenting to me about it. So a few things about that. First of all, I am psychic. I know most things. I know a lot of things before they actually happen, and I know it viscerally. I know it in my body, and I think that he would vouch for this because we've spoken about it. I knew that they'd end up together, and I literally called it. The second thing that I want to talk about is that I am genuinely ecstatic for them. I think it is so beautiful when somebody finds their person. Like, that is
that's miraculous. Finding somebody who gets you and who loves you, how could I not want anything but that for them? So I'm so happy for them. And the third thing is, remember how I just said that I'm a person? Do you guys remember that I'm a person? And I'm like literally some of your best friends. Like, we hang out all the time. I see your comments all the time. And you play me and you listen to me speak and you listen to me teach. And maybe I've found my way into your heart, and I know that you found your way into my heart. But realizing that, I'm like your best friend. So imagine commenting on your best friend's Instagram picture about her ex and his new girlfriend. It's weird. Stop that. So there's that. But I guess thank you for everybody who's like, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Being a public person, it doesn't affect me on a day-to-day basis at all, except for when my life is on like display in that way, right? So like I was saying, I've spent the last 3 or 4 months on Saturday nights alone, and that used to be my favorite thing to do, but it's been hard lately, and that's because I am going through my Saturn return, and my Saturn is opposing my Venus, and that's causing turmoil in that aspect of my life, which is beautiful because it's exactly what I'm supposed to be going through right now. It's exactly what I need to be going through. And I knew it was coming, and I knew I wasn't ready for any sort of relationship, and that's why I really got out of all my romantic relationships, all my entanglements, if you will. So I've been spending some time with myself, and you know what I found out is I actually really like myself. I really do. I'm actually a pretty cool person, and one day when I'm ready, I'm going to be a really, really good partner to somebody, and somebody amazing is going to come into my life, and I'm going to know. Because that's the thing about love for me, is that I've always kind of ended up in things, and I've never really been the one to choose anybody. I kind of just slipped into relationships, and I know that I know what love isn't now, so I'm ready to know what love is. But that's not the time right now. The time right now is not for me to be dating or seeing anybody or talking to anybody. The time right now is for me to do some inner work, some shadow work. And right now it's Scorpio season, and that is the absolute optimal time to be doing as much inner work as possible. And so I intend to completely take my energy away from all the little buddlings of romance that I have started to experience. I'm taking it away from them. It's not time for them right now, and I'm bringing all that energy back to myself, because right now is a time for me. The thing that I've been focusing on is being a lot more honest. So that's a lot more honest with myself about how I feel, and a lot more honest with other people. I've been working on breaking out of the people-pleasing paradigm and telling people what I really think. And this video right now, I wouldn't have posted it a couple years ago because I would be so afraid about what people think about me. But I genuinely want to. I want to be a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit more raw. And usually when I do that, these videos do great because they actually affect people, and people walk away from their computers or their phones or their TVs, and they're like, I was changed by that somehow. Something inside of me was activated, and now I can be strong enough to do what I need to do in my own life. I've also noticed that it's made my relationships become a lot more real. Everything feels more real. The people in my life like to hear what I have to say to them, and sometimes truth hurts, right? There were truths that I didn't want to say before because I was so afraid of hurting other people's feelings. But no matter how painful, as cliche as it sounds, the truth really sets us free. And it allows us to live a life that's free of restriction, of resistance, and of self-doubt, because we know that we're speaking from a place of truth. And what I've seen is the more truthful I am with others and the more truthful I am with myself, the more I can hear that little inner voice guiding me. And honestly, if any of my psychics are out there, any of my clairvoyants, clairaudient, whatever it is that if you dabble with subtle energy, the more truthful you are with everything in your life, the more clearly you can hear the whisper of the divine. The more clearly you can be guided from place to place, and the more you'll know. I know I can call an earthquake before it happens now, and I've proven that on Instagram and on Twitter. I used to not say anything about it because I didn't want to scare anybody, but then I'd always prepare like pants or a robe next to my bed, knowing that there's going to be an earthquake overnight. And sure enough, a few hours into sleep, there's an earthquake and I have to throw that thing on. So I've started to share my gift with other people, and that has come with being more honest with myself, being more honest about everything. So the reason I realized that I had to be more honest with myself is because in the past few months, I heard myself lying to myself inside my head. I would think something like, oh, maybe you should have tried harder, or, oh, you don't really feel like this, or, oh, you're too awakened, you're too spiritual, you've done too much self-development to feel this emotion, so don't feel it anymore. These are lies. Or, oh, you don't deserve him, you don't deserve this friendship, you don't deserve this. It's all these little lies that I've caught myself thinking in my head. And every time we lie to ourselves internally, we are betraying ourselves and moving further away from that connection with our deep self, with our highest self. It is very, very brave to stop lying to yourself internally, to be brutally honest with yourself. You think that it's hard to be honest with other people? Try being honest with yourself in your mind, seeing how you tell yourself, oh, you don't really feel that way. And then being like, no, I actually do, and let me fully feel this. Yes, I feel jealous right now. Yes, I feel hurt. This hurts. This sucks. I hate this. I hate how this feels. And then feeling those emotions fully, processing them, and then realizing, well, if I hadn't processed it, then I wouldn't be feeling so much love and acceptance and joy now, because I've gotten through those emotions, not over them or under them or around them. I've gotten through them. When we get through things, then they don't become embedded in the subconscious mind and then materialize or physicalize as pain or, any sort of energetic blockages in our bodies. So I started to think like, actually, I'm not over this. Actually, this does hurt. Actually, this does suck. Let me feel that. And that was so helpful. Recently, I went to do breath work with a one-on-one practitioner. It's something that I don't give myself as often as I should because I do it for other people. I always guide people through breath work. And when I do, I kind of feel releases myself, but I forget that it's so important to really take that time for self-care for yourself. And it was so intense. It felt like a plant medicine ceremony. It was wild. And I realized how bad I'd been lying to myself. These insights came up for me that I had no idea were even inside of me. And the insights were, I was reviewing past relationships. And even though I did not want to be in those relationships and we broke up, all these relationships ended because I didn't want to be in them anymore. I just didn't want to be in them. I wasn't happy. I wasn't free. But I've been carrying it around with myself that maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe if I had tried harder, those relationships would have worked. Maybe I wasn't deserving of these people. And so as I'm breathing, as I'm doing the breath, these insights come to me. Suddenly I see some of my exes, some of the people that I've been in a relationship with, and even some people that have been my friends that are no longer my friends. And I'm seeing how deeply they loved me and how genuinely they loved me. And I'm realizing, oh, they loved me to the best of their ability with what they had at the time and what they were able to give at the time. We can only love from our level of consciousness, and they loved me from the best of their ability, the best level of consciousness that they could. And I'm accepting this and I'm starting to cry, and then I'm like, holy crap, I did my best too. Why have I been thinking this entire time that I didn't do enough, that I wasn't good enough when I tried my best every single day? I showed up in each one of those relationships to the best of my ability at the time. And the best of your ability at the time is not always going to be this super happy, cheerful, happy-go-lucky, everything's positive and beautiful person, because that's not real. Sometimes you're going to feel frustrated and down and confused and annoyed, and you still love from that place. That's the best you could offer in that moment. We're doing our best from wherever we are in that moment. And looking back, hindsight is always 20/20, right? Grass is always greener. We look back and we're like, well, if I had done this, maybe it would have worked out. But we didn't do that for a reason. We weren't up to it back then. It wasn't the right thing for us back then. Where I was at that time and who I was at that time with all these people in all these situations, I gave my best every single day, the best that I had to give back then. Perhaps what I have to give now is a lot more, and perhaps what I have to give in 2 months from now is going to be, 10 times more, multiple times more. But I did my best. We're all just cute little humans trying our absolute best to stay afloat on this floating rock. We're just doing our best. Everybody's just doing their best from where they are and what they know, right?
So I've decided that I'm going to become even more curious about what I feel, about my faults and my imperfections. Rather than lying to myself that I have these imperfections, I'm going to become more of a researcher, an observer, a scientist, and I'm going to go about them in a very analytical way. Like, let me observe this. Why am I feeling this? Can I have this human experience? And can I fully feel it to the best of my ability? Let myself just get through it. When I feel emotions that feel ugly, I don't want to pretend they don't exist. Because when we pretend they don't exist, that's when we create shadows. That's when we send our shadows to the depths of our shadow world, our subconscious mind. And that's when they manifest into our physical reality in very ugly ways. We don't want that. We want to feel what we feel it fully and process it. I won't even pretend that the emotions are transitory. I won't even pretend that they're not here to stay long. Maybe I'm going to feel like crap for a while. Maybe this is a cycle or a pattern that's going to take a little bit longer to break than another one. I don't have to pretend that I just have to feel it for a couple of days and then it's gone. How about I invite these ugly feelings in, observe them, analyze them, ask them questions? How about I'll feel them fully, and once they've had enough to eat, once they've had enough attention, they'll leave on their own volition. I think that's all I had to say for the day. I love you. Oh, I'm Leeor Alexandra. If this is your first time watching me, this was very intimate, and it's good to know you this well. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments below, or tell me, actually, I don't even really want to hear your judgment about what I am going through. I'd rather know what you're going through. How's life going for you? How's your heart? All right, I love you. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep your vibrations way up. Bye.